Welcome everybody to the Super Suck Hour. My name's the Super Motherfucking Sucklord, and I got all my fucking friends in the studio ready to show you a hot time. Yes, indeed. Once again, we have Mr. DKE Toys Dove Kellemer in the hot seat. Resin X-Ray Master, none other than Scott Wilkowski. David Healy is back again, incognito, ready to tell us what he thinks. J-Corp is back. Keep doing what you're doing. We'll find a use for you. And Nasty Neil twisting it up in the corner and continuing to stunt as only he does. Thanks for coming on the show and being my friend and all that shit. So, we're going to just pick this up where we ended last time. Yeah, we don't have any sponsors. J-Corp, didn't you have a little thing about sponsorship you were saying before?
Oh, yeah. This episode of the Suck Hour is sponsored by absolutely nobody, because nobody is giving us any money to expand our operations. So if you change your mind, we link buttons everywhere. You know where they are.
Suckhour at suckadelic.com. Do it for J-Corp. She needs a new pair of shoes and a handbag.
I need a whole lot of stuff.
You need a lot of things, but
you need that sound effect from The Price Is Right that goes
bum bum ba-dum.
And I need a pet squirrel.
We have that in our database. All right. So I guess we're gonna continue to talk about toys and shit like that, plain to the base, as it were. Instead of going off on some fucking stupid excursion, we're just gonna talk about things that people who like the Sucklord.
You're so upset about that critique, huh?
No, listen. It's always good to try new things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, and then when you crash and burn, you go back to what you're good at. I've done that so many times in my career.
You're even better than when you started.
Speaking of my career, this guy over here, I don't know, Dove over here.
Oh, Dove, yeah.
Now, we know what you are and what you do. If you watched the last episode, if you're some kind of fucking masochist and you sat through that whole fucking thing, then you know everything there is to know about DKE Toys and Dove K, as we like to call him. Actually, no one has ever called you that, and they're not about to start.
Is that over now?
Yeah, it's done. Okay. It's done. But pretty much anybody who's in this game, this designer, make-it-yourself toy racket, this weird psychotic episode called Our Life, it's fucked with Dove, or Dove's fucks with them. And if Dove doesn't fucks with you, then you're not fuckwithable. There's nothing there to fuck with.
That's not true.
What?
Don't say that. There's so many talented people out there doing their own thing that.
But you would fuck with them.
Sure.
Yeah. So. But if you've ever made the decision not to fuck with someone.
No.
All right, we're getting off topic.
That's
okay, fine. I'll retract that. Dove fucks with a lot of people that are luminaries in this business. My experience, and we're gonna get to your story and your story too. When I first started doing this shit, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I made my first batch of Gay Empire figures, and I didn't know what to do with them. It's like I had just got my first studio. It was $700 a month, and I was like, I gotta make something I can fucking sell, or I'm not gonna be able to pay this rent. I'm still living at my mom's house. I was like a giant infant when it came to just doing business, and I made these figures, and I think I managed to get one or two of them into Kid Robot, and from there, Frank Kozik posted something on the Kid Robot message board. Remember the Kid Robot message board? You don't remember that? It was Frank.
I remember that.
I used to go on the Kid Robot message board a lot.
Are they not there anymore?
No, they're not there, but who the fuck reads that shit? Not me.
Oh, they are there, but no one reads them.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. No one gives a fuck about the Kid Robot boards, do they?
No, they don't. But I think it's still there.
Anyway, back in the day, it was like there wasn't a lot of outlets for this shit. Now there are. So that was like one of the main sort of meeting of the mind places, and or Skullbrain. But that's a different story. We can talk about that if you want. But so Frank Kozik posted something like, "Look at this cool figure, Gay Empire, nah." And whatever. And then like a few days later, I get this email. I'm sitting there like, what am I gonna do? I gotta get some money. I get this email. It's like, hi, my name's Dove. I work for DK Toys, and I'm a toy distributor. And I saw your Gay Empire figures, and I'd like to, and I'd like to buy some of them.
That's what my email sounds like.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, who's this Dove guy? He wants to buy this shit, at half, or a little less than half the retail. Fuck it, I need money. So I put a bunch of Gay Empire figures into a smooth-on box. They fit perfectly. The 3 3/4 with the package, it just fit.
Box or a resin box?
The resin box. Sent it, and he fucking sent me a check. and I paid my rent.
Sorry, it did not work out that way. I had to pay you first, and you thought I was a complete jacker, and you were absolutely, completely like rude
I was?
until you got your check.
Hmm.
And then once you were paid, you were like my best friend.
Isn't that how it usually works?
I don't know, but it was like
Prostitutes,
you went from you went from like asshole to nice guy. Like the check made all the difference in the world.
Well, I can see that. I can see that. This was in 2005. I was a somewhat different person.
I mean, I guess there's a lot of jokers out there who don't.
Like you say, yeah, I didn't know I didn't know who you were, and you weren't.
But check was a game changer.
But you weren't Dove of DKA Toys at the time. Like this was just starting. You know, you weren't legendary. I hadn't heard of you. Now everyone has heard of you.
Check for, if I may ask?
$200-300 bucks. I don't know. Do you remember?
Maybe
How much
something
it
like that. $500, something.
There it goes.
Less than like no,
The
probably
lies
no,
you get.
probably. It wasn't that much. I think I only sold you like 20 figures, and you probably gave me $10 for each of them.
So
So
$40 figures, wholesale to 20, gave you 16 delivered.
it was enough
There
money
you
to
go.
change my mind. It was enough money to keep me going. Like if
Was
I
it the largest? Was that your first largest amount of money for someone buying multiple figures or something like that?
it was the most money I'd ever made selling a toy
Okay. Well, that's cool. That's a good story.
at the time.
Yeah.
And it came at a time where if I didn't get that sale, then I would have defaulted on my rent, and things would have got weird, and I might not have been able to continue. But you allowed me to continue, so it's sort of your fault.
I'm sorry, everybody.
But you managed to sell them, and you kept me floating. I guess and we've had a swimming time since then. We've done a lot. But what initially, when you first saw that Gay Empire figure, was it on the Kid Robot board? You saw that? When did you first see that figure?
It was online somewhere. It was on a blog or something. I don't know.
And why did you feel inclined to try to acquire it for your business?
I wanted one for myself, which is usually kind of the motivation. Is like you see.
Why did you want it?
I think as I, developed a taste for designer toys and all the, for all the reasons we talked about in the last episode, this was now taking something that was very close to my heart, Star Wars, and kind of, had immediately like a political take on it, and the Gay Empire figure was
pretty brilliant.
It was, and it communicated something to just about everyone who saw it. Even if it was like, ugh. And I still see that to this day. I mean, we almost sold 20 Gay Empires at New York this past weekend. And I put it right there in front so everybody sees it. And the reaction on people's faces, it's still, you get like everything from complete like ecstasy and joy to utter like homophobic revulsion. Still, unfortunately.
Really?
But people see it like, ha, where they're laughing at it or laughing with it. It's kind of creepy, and people are like, hey, look, Gay Empire, ha, like that. I just scared the shit out of Scott.
I mean, yeah, that is kind of weird though.
And then the thing is, I didn't put two and two together, but I had actually seen you at conventions before that time.
the Star Wars Breakbeat era.
Mm-hmm. And I had your stickers. And when I saw the Sucklord 66 figure, I just thought, I don't know, it was just something new. And here was a great, and it was so shitty.
Why did that make it appeal to you? I mean, you said before like you weren't really into the bootlegs, or at least the real bootlegs.
Because the real bootlegs were, pirated figures, and I get it now. I don't really have any. I don't have any desire to go get any. Something Brian Flynn from Super 7 told me that was happening with his Godzilla toys is that there was a point at which the bootleg Godzilla stuff surpassed the value of the regular 60s Godzilla stuff. And I guess at that time I should have gone and bought a bunch of stuff, but that wasn't really what I was into doing. But the same thing has happened in Star Wars. Like, those Turkish bootlegs now are worth so much more than the regular figures. That's just a different thing. I was really into the artist. That there was a dude who dressed up like this, and he made a figure of himself, right? And there was a dude who was making this political statement about a gay empire. It was both, political, kind of, a gag, and had those kind of folk art qualities. Like it just, and you said on the back, like, you're an asshole for buying this. So it's like, I don't know, I was being made fun of at the same time. So I've always likened your work to, especially here in New York, there are these restaurants that stay open till like 4 a.m. It's where all the chefs go after they close their restaurants, and that's where they go have like, goat testicle and like eel brain or whatever, and it's like there's the chef's chef. Well, you were really, and still are to some degree, the toy maker's toy maker. And if you look at who was collecting your stuff at the time, Frank Kozik was collecting your stuff, Paul Budnitz was collecting your stuff, Joe Ledbetter was collecting your stuff. I remember Paul from Circus Punks. Everybody in the scene who had kind of had it with licensed figures, saw this as something
and
very
vinyl toys too.
And very refreshing. I'm sorry?
Vinyl toys too.
What about that?
Well, people weren't really doing. Were people making their own shit out of resin at the time? It was like that was during like I did that out of bitterness because I couldn't get a nice fancy production toy made.
Well, that's a different thing. When I started out doing vinyl toys, there was a stigma against resin. Right? Resin was not cool. Like no one was selling resin. I couldn't even carry resin for fear that I would have an insurrection of retailers that would be like, you're selling stuff that's not cool. Like that was unfortunately a very, real concern early on. Now it's fair, and now anything.
Now it's to be like as repulsive as rock and roll or something, like just like like to have people that consider themselves liberal because they're buying stuff from Kid Robot kind of say, I don't like the resin. Like it's kind of good when people who claim to be alternative aren't accepting something,
But it's different. The resin that was out there in the market was predominantly at comic book shops, like busts and statues.
Or models.
Yeah, like,
garage kit.
The garage kits were huge,
the
right?
Vampirellas and stuff
and
like
that was, the whole bootleg model kit and resin and vinyl kit, that was like a huge thing that I think McFarlane killed that because no longer did you need, this model kit. You could get something for $15 that was painted.
I never
really
thought
well.
about that with McFarlane, with the level of detail and like the statue kind
just
of pose. It's really based on that.
Those garage kits.
The hobby.
That hobby's gone.
I still have some.
Okay, well, our hobby isn't gone. Our hobby's still going.
It's the same hobby. It's evolved.
It's
but
not.
I agree. Now resin is more sought after than vinyl in many cases.
Because the resin that Scott's doing, he's pouring himself quite often.
Well, I think it's the same.
When you're doing
But
resin,
I started at a time where it wasn't the thing to be used.
Mm-hmm.
It was like also
that's what made it
because I can't
attractive,
make a
'cause people were
vinyl toy, I
sick
don't have
of
the
the
money.
vinyl
So
shit.
I can make it look like it, but it's going to be made out of resin because it's what I can do myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the vinyl stuff was still small run in that you still needed $10,000, $20,000 to make a run of something, as opposed to hundreds of thousands of dollars, previous. But the resin was something that like you guys can both do now in the other room in a couple hours. So
You're welcome. Well, so then what? So then why then? If all that shit was such, if you couldn't sell any of that stuff, why did you want to buy the gay Empire figure? Why would you think you could sell that? What made that different? Because it's not the shit that we do isn't the same as the garage kit
buying
shit.
them to you selling resin figures.
Well, I think that was the first resin figure that I sold, and I think they sold out immediately. I think how long was it before I called you for more?
Right away.
I think there got to a point.
You said I'll take as much as you can make.
Right.
Pretty much.
Because you couldn't make them fast enough. And then as your career progressed...
Yeah, what went wrong? This all sounds great, but then what happened?
As far as your career?
Yeah.
Did something go wrong?
I don't know. I was...
Got there already.
Just doing a little foreshadowing, that's all.
Right here. It's a small market, and people want to buy your stuff. Then people want to buy Scott's stuff. So then they are buying both your stuff, not as much of yours, more some of Scott's. Then there's me. Then there's other people. And I think that
it's not only that. I think when you start collecting when people get into the scene, they start with one of this and one of that and one of this and one of that. They don't say like, I'm only going to collect your stuff and start collecting it, only. They're into a lot of stuff. And then as they have more choices, they start focusing. And then they sell off the other stuff, and then before you know it, they're only collecting your stuff and waiting for your releases because you have to make a living, so you're pumping out enough product to keep them busy that they don't need to go buy something else.
So you're saying most collections are going to get refined at one point?
I think that happens to most people.
I'm at that point myself.
There are some collectors who are more of the pick and choose. Like I would like to have one Sucklord piece. I would like to have one Wilkowski piece to have a broad selection. But I think the hardcore, like...
The toy-based collectors refine. The more artsy collectors are all over the place, and I find that's what I find at least.
So it's not that anything went wrong. I mean, your prices went up, as they should. You started making fewer pieces, but there's also the law of diminishing returns. So it's kind of like...
you continue to buy every single psychedelic piece in twos. You buy 2 of everything.
It's refined.
To this day, you have every single thing I've ever made.
I have most things that are editions. I have 2 of each. But there's
Why?
a reason
Why?
I have 2. Well, we talked about doing a book. And you do not take appropriate photos for publication. So I have become your default archivist. And so... if you would set up a camera setup and take an appropriate photo, I could have 1 of each.
Oh.
Don't do that. Because then you lose money.
He gets...
just making sure you understand.
Yeah. Right. Okay, but the fucked up thing is that he did get away from production for a couple of years and started doing the panels for 2 years. 500-600 panels, right? Which he doesn't have good photos
That
of.
would be the greatest book ever.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It's a
That would
shitty
be like
photos.
Sergio
So
Aragonés.
that is the greatest fuck
I
up,
guess
I
you
think,
could
of your
hunt down the
career.
collectors.
Because if you don't have a good photo, I mean, that's your intellectual property, and it doesn't exist anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like you've failed to archive them in a way that you can profit from them in the future. We can get maybe 100 of them, 200 of
most
them.
of them back, right? Or an image.
Do you know the cost to do that?
Technically you could, but but it would have been easier to just get good photos of them.
I mean, should have a camera set up
What if
right
you
here.
had a Kickstarter that involved
People-
gathering them and everything?
We're going to
too?
hire an archivist for a year to go back and mail everything
Wouldn't
back.
that be incredible if someone really found there was some worth in doing that? That'd
You
be
could
pretty
make a book
amazing.
out of those, 'cause
It's
I-
like
I
this
would
guy
look
was
through-
such a fuck up, and he didn't photograph his art because he didn't think much of it as he was making it. He was just desperate to sell it cheap and pay his rent, and he
That's
didn't give a
most
fuck.
artists.
And now he's dead, but wasn't he amazing? So let's go and collect all his crap and bullshit together and take pictures of it and make some big fancy ass book about it. That'd be
That's how it goes.
amazing.
That's how it goes.
It'd be so much. That's
Dude,
such a better story than I have all the pictures and they're in Photoshop
It's a
and everything's
complete
cool.
fail, dude.
Yeah, I know.
No, but there is something to the.
But it's
point
fucking
of,
rock and roll, man.
Yeah,
They're just out there, whatever. They're just out there.
roll.
Complete.
And I think Scott's the same way. Sometimes
No,
you
I
just
agree with
wanna
you. It is a
make
fail. I'm just-
Scott takes amazing
I'm
photos.
taking.
Yeah, but he doesn't keep one of everything.
Doesn't matter.
Oh,
He
really? So
has
it's just
amazing
This is now
photos.
documented.
Are my photos amazing?
You do take good photos
Your
too.
photos are pretty fucking
They're
great.
pretty
So that
fantastic.
means then they're around forever?
You can publish them. You
But they're
can
just for my
license
phone.
them. You can do a book about them. Once there's a book, once there's a monograph of your work, right?
Yeah, but they're phone pictures. Can that? I mean, does that?
Little books.
Still,
I
Stop
don't
beating
know.
yourself up, David. Your shit's great.
No, but I just didn't understand what
You're
you
doing a
meant
good job.
by archiving. Like, does it have to be like turns and a white background?
I am not a professional archivist. I am one by default.
Okay,
Because
okay.
someone has failed to do it himself.
Yeah, but isn't it out there? I don't know.
That's the reason? You just don't do it because you like it?
Well, it comes to a point once you have everything, right? It's like when you have a collection of something, you have the best collection of it. Then it starts getting away from just like, well, I have every single Star Wars figure ever. It gets away from that, and then you're like Steve Sansweet, like you have a foundation and people come and pay money to go see your shit.
So you can run the Psychedelic Museum.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah,
Be
it would
most
be
likely
great.
to.
Yeah.
He's the only person that could do it. Listen, but to be honest, listen
like,
to me.
yeah.
I'm sorry
Well-
that I've saddled you with that responsibility.
Do you have a will?
No.
He's your Steve.
I don't have
Sansweet.
anything to will off.
What the fuck are you talking about, dude? You have like all this intellectual property.
Yeah, you and Simeon can have it.
Well, you better fucking put that in writing.
Okay. All right.
I'll take some.
You have your own thing. You don't need part of mine.
Nice.
Yeah,
And
if
then
you
we'll
want to help
get-
me, if
and
you want
it-
to help me arrange it, I would. Listen,
Fine. And what's going to happen is that this intellectual property will increase in value, and it will.
I hope so.
It will. For one person actually to inherit it, it will exceed the exemption, and then you'll owe the government 40% of its value in order to keep it. So then people start foundations, and then
well, I'm leaving that to you to handle
Good.
all that shit.
I'll take care of it.
I'll sign off on all of it.
Jesus
No,
fucking
listen,
Christ.
man. There's only so much I could do. I know my strengths and weaknesses, and just that just I can't do that. And I feel more responsible giving you the work, making you have the work than me. You're a better caretaker than me, so this arrangement works out.
Do you use a respirator when you're casting resin?
No.
Well, then it's going to be very soon, isn't it?
The museum.
Do you wear a respirator?
I have a squirrel cage. Now, what makes
Oh,
you think
yeah.
I have a
wear
squirrel
one.
cage?
Thank
vent?
you.
And gloves.
That
and-
shit is
and
so
ear
fucking
protection.
toxic.
No, it's not.
The crystal
told
clear
you that
mic
years
is.
ago.
Smooth
too,
on
you're
is
like,
not
"Ah,
toxic.
The
You don't
amount-
need to wear
the
a
amounts that are
respirator.
poured, the fact that they go right in the pot, they're curing. What you do that you shouldn't do is you're not venting your pot outside.
Right.
That's because all the curing.
So am I gonna
occur-
die?
I
Is
don't know.
this
You
shit gonna
seem
kill me?
fucking healthy as can
Well,
be. So
if all the drugs and alcohol don't kill you
it's
first.
such a small amount.
Yeah. And it shoots at 40 miles or 40
Listen.
pounds of pressure. Psh, up.
And so that
I'm
I'm
gonna
not putting my
outlive all
mouth
of
over
so
it.
as it's curing, it's off gassing. So you should take some precautions.
Vent your pot out the window. That's the main thing. Like, don't just blow the safety in the room.
How do you vent it out the window?
Just put a hose and run the other end out the window.
Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Do you do that?
You vent it in the same room?
I just shoot it. I don't even. I just
I usually
pull
what
the
I do
cord
is
and
I-
let it shoot off.
I put a rag over the thing. I put a shirt or a rag over the thing, so when I pull the pin, all the exhaust goes into the cloth. I
Oh,
don't just
yeah.
let it off into the air.
Yeah, exhaust.
It doesn't
It's-
blow in my face.
Gets absorbed by cloths. Good.
No, but it's like there's a difference. If you filter it out, then it just deflects the blast. It's
I-
not
as
going
long
right
as
in
you're
my
in a
fucking
big
Alright,
face.
enough
put it this way. I
room
have a
with some-
fan that sucked the cup up into the exhaust that's always on when I'm pouring. Like, it actually
That's how
pulled the
strong
cup
it is?
out of my hand. Yeah.
Anyway, the point is there
Alright,
are
so-
some precautions that you could
That was
take,
awesome.
especially when you're using aerosol, like that maybe in this closed environment, especially on a hot day, that you could
I open the windows.
prolong your life.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
Next
Thanks.
subject.
Thanks for the tip.
I told you that so many years ago. In the
Yeah.
whole
Well,
I wear a respirator.
let's get that will started just in case.
Fine.
But I'm not planning on dying anytime soon.
Good.
So you better just keep archiving that shit, motherfucker, because there's going to be a lot of it.
Keep it coming.
I'm going to. Do you think it's still as good as it was, or like I did my best thing first and it's all just been rehashed since then?
I think there's some moments of like true inspiration. I think that you are forced to create a lot more product, and a lot more art to survive. And I think if you had the means, you would probably make less. That being said, like if you got a windfall of money, you'd probably do nothing. So the fact that you have this motivation that you have to perform, I mean that's very healthy and good for an artist. It means because otherwise, you know, if you had all the time to be the artiste and take all your time, and you know, you could just meander around and you know monkey with something until it's lifeless. So a great thing, deadlines are great things for artists. I know most artists wish they had more time, but really, you know, it's that George Lucas line that like films are never finished, they're abandoned. He never took his own advice, but you know what I mean. It's
That's true.
But I think it's linked, like, he's prolific. If stuff doesn't sell,
mhm.
that shouldn't have anything to do with what
No.
you're doing creatively.
No,
Unfortunately, we're tied in that way because of the way we live. But, like, some of your stuff that I like the most, like, you were like, I didn't do that well.
And it doesn't have to, and that's
But
historically
it does have to in order for the whole thing to work.
that's historically true for most valuable art out there. Most people didn't care about the stuff when it first came out. In fact, the most valuable things in all of collectibles and all of art are the things that people
Throw
thought
away.
were trash.
Oh, yeah, but I'm saying in terms of,
Not that this is trash.
like...
No, but there was
we-
that. There's
we're
always
not-
had that attitude built into it.
That throwing in the trash and it being worth a lot is a great thing for a career as a whole, but when you're going and just trying to pay your bills and stuff like that, you're tied into the fact of like, this may be an amazing masterpiece, but it didn't sell. So therefore, in your own head, you see it as a failure. And I think to be a
Van
great
Gogh didn't sell.
Right.
No, Van Gogh. Yeah, exactly. So
Doesn't matter.
yeah, but it stinks. Like you don't feel like was it good then because the sales were good and now it's not. This might be your greatest work now when you're not selling it the most.
And as far as the marketplace goes and the value, it's going to be you are so prolific that what's going to happen is there's this huge hump that you're going to have to get over. And that is that, let's say, magically you are rocketed to stardom overnight and your individual figures are selling for $500 to $1,000 each. Well, there's now 15 years worth of product in collections and on the market that are immediately going to be dumped on the market trying to capitalize on that. And so that you are going to immediately be competing against all of your...
You have to survive that to get the escape velocity.
Wow, that's awesome. Battling myself, that's what I want.
It happens to painters all the time. Yeah. It's really hard to jump because if you're if you're a painter and you're in the $1,000 or under range, there's a lot of people just buying you on speculation. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I want a piece of his, I got a piece of his, a piece of his. Maybe this will be worth $10,000. As soon as like the average gallery price is $5,000-$10,000, it's like, boom, everything's on the market, and some people don't survive that. So,
and you think people are doing that with our shit?
Yes.
All the time, man. Do you ever look at your stuff on eBay?
Yeah.
I mean, there are people buying your stuff specifically to put it on eBay.
Just understanding like what specific level of bigness that they expect is going to happen with this.
It's not. Look, some people are straight speculators, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But other people collect this stuff until they kind of, either
want it anymore,
lose interest, or maybe they're moving, or lost their job, or getting a divorce,
having
whatever.
A kid.
Have too much shit and need to pare it down. Like
it's kind of always makes me feel kind of bad when I see someone dump their collection.
Well, it's like a nice thing, man.
Yeah, it's just like
the thing about it is, even though prices have kind of leveled off, and like those crazy prices aren't there anymore, where someone buys something for you from $100 and they flip it for $300. That's kind of gone away from the speculation market. But most of the people who are, selling their stuff of yours are selling, and for far more significant pricing than you released them at.
Not all the time. I see shit going for like less than retail, or just like
very rare.
Well,
I was seeing it on eBay for that.
Just unfollow him on Instagram.
Well, whatever. But the thing is, it's like,
who is he talking about?
It's not important.
No, but it's just like, yeah, whatever. It's just it's just weird when you see somebody that's been buying your shit forever. Just be like, I don't want this anymore.
You don't know what's going on in their life.
They don't love it anymore. Is what's going on.
But maybe I'll tell you what's happened.
They don't love me.
No.
But someone new that didn't get the opportunity to buy it in the beginning now has an opportunity to pick it up, and that means a lot
hopefully
to those
people. Hopefully those people exist.
Yeah, and
because if I was smart, I would buy that shit immediately.
Most likely,
and just have nothing on the market.
Most likely, they are not selling everything. They're keeping the things that they really like, but they also have come to the realization
that it doesn't make them happy.
That is possible, but they've realized that you're going to continue to make stuff, for the foreseeable future. So for a collector, there's no end game. So it's like how much, like I make, $30,000 a year, and I'm going to spend 10 of it with the Sucklord. That seems.
I got some long-running motherfuckers right now.
Think of it as. Do you think it has to do with your work, or do you think it has to do with their financial situation?
Yeah, there's a lot of other factors that
well, I'm saying
you don't need to take personally.
Yeah, don't take it.
Now, there are some people that, that whole phenomenon that happens, like you find a band that you like, and they're a small band, and you think they're the greatest. You follow them out on tour, whatever. You buy all their albums. I'm dating myself here. But then they get a record deal, and they're huge, and then you decide you don't like them anymore. And then you're looking for
Who really does that?
Dude.
When I like something, I fucking like it. I don't care what happens. And I still like the Osmonds. I still like Duran Duran. I don't listen to them every day. But these are random. I mean, these were bands that I liked when I was a kid, and I still like them.
That you still like.
That I still like?
Yeah.
Nah, I can't think of anything else.
So I was telling you about this before. This book I really like called "You're Not So Smart," and it's my favorite book, and he starts off with some premise like you think you're in control of your life and you make decisions based on rationale, and then he lists the whole chapter, explains to you why you're completely out of your head and it's totally not true, and at the end he says because you're not so smart. And so he's got this great chapter about the whole phenomenon, starting from like hippies to metalheads to goth kids to emo kids, and just how all of those niches were actually feeding the whole machine, and it's those niches that have become the mainstream, and every generation has that little subgenre that creates the the grunge scene, whatever it is,
and now it's resin bootleg figures.
It's part of it. And so he talks about how poor people who are just competing for resources to survive, and middle class people don't have enough money to compete, buying whatever rich people do, properties and businesses and diamonds or whatever you buy when you have fuck you money. So middle class people are competing for like taste and snobbery. And so where everyone sort of has access to all the same goods and services that are out there, you have someone, this was me, right? I was done with Star Wars. That it didn't define me anymore. It started to become a commodity and become just a number, and I was just...
So you needed stronger shit.
Yes. and then you see this, it's like, oh, but this is art. This makes me feel differently. This is cool. I happen to have stuck around. Other people have gone by the wayside. Whatever. You'll get new fans.
Oh no, I have tons of new fans. I'm not worried about my fans.
So what are you worried about?
I'm not. Currently I'm not worried, but I had some bad years. There was a specific demarcation point where the fucking golden era ended. Like right after Work of Art kind of faded, and then we had a couple of disastrous moves, with some figures we tried to make, and just like there was an oversaturation.
Which were the disasters?
We made the Gay Gotham, the Gay Sesame Street, and the Suck Up 2. Those were sort of like missteps, I think.
Come on, that was great.
It was great, but I think we just dumped too much shit. We were trying to get too many people. We outsourced the resin. There was just like a lot of things about that where I think it was just too much psychedelic came out at once, and the quality wasn't quite there. And you're gonna defend this?
First of all, the Suck Up 2, didn't affect you necessarily like in sales. I think what the conclusion...
It helped continue to solidify a narrative amongst my core fans that my work was suffering, or that I was selling out, or I was...
I don't think that's not...
No,
I don't think that's what happened.
I think so. I think it's totally what happened.
The conversation that we had at the time was a realization that I had that it was not my place to come out with figures in the price range that was your standard art, that I was dipping into your market share, and that was no longer my role.
That was kind of you.
Well, it was hurting you. So at the Suck Up 1, it was phenomenal. We sold so many figures.
Yeah, that was great.
It was out of control. We sold out virtually everything. And by Suck Up 2, I'd completely saturated your market. And so that's when we decided to start with the Suckle figures, and we did the talking plush.
That's when I went to Suck panels, and that was what brought me back. Like I couldn't. But the thing is, there was that whole era of the Galactic Jerkbags page, where like the original people that had been buying my shit forever, we know all of them personally, were all having this intense conversation about what I was making, what I was doing. You were on there too. You guys were all in that mix too. It was in that sort of like era when like this was really starting to become something, and I watched how their fervent sort of devotion to this thing diminished after sort of a series of events of my own creation that just like sort of kind of fucked my brand up a little bit with that crowd, and I shed a lot of them.
It probably would have happened no matter what because of your output, but there was a time, and I don't know if you remember, like where Simeon and I were like begging and pleading with you to continue to make carded figures, and you're like, this takes too much time, this is bullshit, I'm just going to do bag and header cards from now on. And we were just like losing our minds, just like telling you like, what the fuck are you doing, you're going to like fall into a grave.
I've fallen into tons of graves.
Well, with the Suck Up 1, I mean, do you think it was a perspective thing? Where I mean, 'cause you had like big names in there, like people from Vinyl Toys, like Paul Kaiju was in there and stuff. I mean,
Yeah, and it was just
Do you
inspired.
think that you
Everything was
had,
more
like,
inspired, and it was like I was also on the TV show at the time, and it was just like that just felt like there was like a lot of
It
momentum
may have been.
going on.
I mean, a lot of the guys that buy stuff
I
are
was the
prospective
precursor.
buyers, so I feel like
I was hot at the time.
yeah, and but then
was
if it
part
didn't
of it.
prove that to pay off, that could have caused the negative on the second one.
I don't know. I think it just withered on the vine, and
You
like
made a lot more on the second one though, too.
I
Right?
think we just hedged too much. Like we
Same
made
amount?
too much stuff, and the quality kind of suffered. And I'm not gonna lie, I was not quite as inspired. I was like kind of like realized that being on TV wasn't gonna buy me a new life, and I had to go back to making toys and shit like that.
But none
and
of this has to do with the Suck Up 2. Had the Suck Up 2 sold out completely, you've internalized this, or had it not sold at all, you think that these other factors were
I'm not-
happening no matter what?
It's all sold out.
No, I still have a lot of Suck Up 2 figures.
Suck Up 2 was one of my craziest, because I was in it. That was like one of the craziest times I've ever sold that many figures for that much money.
It was
in-
a fantastic figure.
no,
A lot of crappy
But I
things
think that
happened to him.
shows,
Well, whatever.
too,
I don't want
But
to.
it
I don't
was-
want to
it was-
dwell on that.
It was me doubling down on something that was very successful.
Yeah.
And I should have pulled back, the law of
Sometimes you
diminishing
can't
returns.
replicate
It was
it.
an error because it was when my stuff was starting to really hit, and I think it wasn't just the Suck Up 2. There were so many things that.
No,
were
I mean I
happening.
think the Gay Gotham was a failure too because
You're citing. I mean, I can tell you why that was a failure, but you're citing two figures. That was not the beginning of the end. That is like a blip on the radar, and you're actually making it out to be a bigger thing and creating a false narrative about these two figures. I mean, I can tell you the story about that.
Go ahead.
If you want to hear it. Well, I had a budget and a plan for all the stuff I was going to release at Comic-Con, and at the last minute you're like, I don't want to do the figures. And I was like, dude, you can't do that to me. Like I can't get something else made in that amount of time. So I had to throw some money at you to get you to do them. We got
why did you have to do it at all? Why can't you just be like, fuck it, okay, I'm not going to sell your shit?
Because I'm in business and I have a certain amount of money to spend with which to invest in product, to sell stuff, to make a living. So if you pull out that much stuff, you're handicapping my ability to have a successful show. Like I'm already doing all that work no matter what. Right?
Yeah.
So I had to bitch and moan to get you to do it, and you did a shitty job.
It wasn't completely my fault because
If-
we outsourced
if
the
you-
resin
if
casting,
you-
and
no one's
they
looking-
weren't as good. They weren't good, and that was
People-
just Kilman at the time when that was exactly the wrong thing to do.
Complete bullshit. No one is judging your figures by the quality of your resin.
There's
Yeah.
there's a
You
consistency
phoned
to
in
it.
that design. You apologized to me after you did it.
Yeah, because I hated the idea.
And, well, we had so many conversations about it where you loved it, and then at the last minute you got cold feet and was like, and then. So, I think you're dwelling on two figure releases which are so
I
insignificant.
agree with you that
in the
that's
body of
why,
work.
but that's the thing. I'm agreeing with you that that's why it was
Anyway,
bad. I'm
you're-
just saying this was my first experience. Since I put out the Gay Empire figure. For the several years to 2011, 2012, I could do no wrong. Every single thing I made was a hit. It was a sellout. I was on a fucking cloud, and I was I was untouchable. And those were the first experiences in my career where I made a big mistake or didn't sell. And I think that shook a lot of people's image.
The
A lot of
graphics-
people that were worshiping me were like, ugh.
the
and
graphics were weak.
Yeah, they were. I'm not saying it wasn't
You
a
did
bad
the gay
figure.
Star Trek,
but
the,
it was
the
my
Kirk and Spock, and that worked phenomenally.
I'm just saying it was my
Batman
first
and Robin,
bad figure. And
Batman and Robin should have been a fucking home run for you. Bert and Ernie, that is and for some reason, you just passive aggressively
They were really
phoned it in.
simplified, those things, right?
well, the thing it's tough, to do a 2-pack. It's not always easy to get as
You
much
did a
shit
Kirk
on
and
there.
Spock pack?
That one somehow worked. I don't know why, but all the good stuff was
It was
on the
that
back
picture on the
anyway.
back. I mean,
Yeah, but not
the
everybody
picture.
sees the back.
Why are we even talking about this?
I don't know because why does this upset you?
It's upsetting me that it's that you view this as the beginning of the end, where it's this it's so insignificant. If that's the demarcation point for where you went downhill.
Well, no, I'm back on top now.
Oh,
This was a couple of years ago.
I see.
I don't know how we got on this either. I'm just saying.
Okay.
You know, but anyway, you recovered from that just fine. If I hadn't fucked that up, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing now. Because you put all this. No, listen. This is how I helped you.
Yeah.
Because
Witness.
if when you wanted that many figures and you wanted to have like a large run of these things and put them at Comic-Con, this was like you were really getting momentum on doing the carded resin figures things as your sort of main draw. And I think because I was your favorite and I was at the time one of a smaller group of people, you know, you wanted to feature me and push me, and that was the right thing. But for whatever reason, it wasn't jiving up with where I thought I should be going, and there was a misstep there. And because it fucked up, it forced you to say like, okay, I have to look elsewhere. If I want to stock my booth with cool shit, I can't depend on the Sucklord. Let me go to the other artists and start developing things with them.
Hold on.
People,
Wait. Thank you.
right? You know, and they came through because they saw the advantage and the opportunity.
Well, two things happened simultaneously.
Is that reasonably correct?
Two things happened simultaneously. That is correct. Also, what was correct is that as the nature of San Diego Comic-Con changed, where it used to be kind of like a trade show, where dealers from all over the country, we'd be there and represent all of these different products, and we would pretty much only carry exclusives to... The goal was not necessarily making money. The goal was to showcase product and have exclusives for companies that we represent to further the brand. And as I was getting more jaded and as Comic-Con, the nature of Comic-Con changed, I started going out and getting artists to create stuff for me to sell at the shows, Scott Wilkowski being a great example, in an effort just to sell stuff to try and generate income and forget about... There's a certain point where I felt free to just go out there and try and get the best stuff that I could to sell at shows, rather than having an ulterior motive of representing the companies that we, you know, the brands that we represented.
You're welcome.
So, are you waiting for a thank you again?
No,
Thank you.
You don't have to thank me. I think it worked out great, and we can analyze the results of that in the next episode. Let's get this. I've been hearing rumors about this legendary Scott Wilkowski origin story that you seem to know, and I think, you know, since this guy is never going to tell it on his own, why don't you enlighten us on who the fuck this big lug sitting here is with the pretty smile, you know, and the see-through resin toys. Who is that guy?
So one of the, you know, in our effort to promote DesignerCon, we were big DesignerCon supporters very early on, and really felt that as San Diego was heading in the other direction, DesignerCon was this mecca for all artists and designer toys and everything creative. So we curated a show. It was the Yoka show. It was this Ad Fun show, had these little panda bears, and I don't even know how. It was kind of an open call.
No.
Do you remember how we got in touch?
I had made a resin kit for Brian Ralph's Cave-In figure. And through that, I had heard that Brian Flynn had got one because he was friends with Brian Ralph. So I hadn't met Brian Flynn yet. This is 2002.
I thought you were going to tell the story.
2003. No, but this is even pre-Dove. So I meet Brian Flynn. While talking to him, Kozik walks by and says something in a passing moment. Brian is like, "Do you know Frank?" It's like, "I do know who he is, but I've never met." And like it was almost like simultaneously, like his card was like in the handshake, like the Kozik card handoff. And he's like, "I make toys, you're a sculptor, like email me." And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so it was like only that thing of events. But then I emailed Frank and sent him samples. He never responded, but forwarded my information to Dove.
Like, "Hi, Mr. Kozik.
Yeah.
Here's my stuff." He just forwarded Dove.
Yeah, and then Dove maybe had emailed me and is like, "Well, I don't really hire sculptors. I'll keep your information, and maybe if someone is looking, I can pass that information along to someone who needs a sculptor."
So we had maybe 300 artists in the Yoka show. As a matter of fact, you really phoned in your piece too.
I did a great job, I thought.
That was the shittiest one in the show.
And I called it phone in because I didn't want to do it, and you made me do it. You forced me to do it.
So
I often
Saving
find myself
it?
being forced to do things I don't want to do because of you.
Well, at the same time you're phoning it in, that was the time I was gonna be like, I'm gonna work as hard as I ever can on this
And
He
thing.
was like
And
Clubber
this is
Lang.
my
He
first
was like
ch-
Clubber Lang, and you were like Rocky and Rocky 2.
yeah, and that is the truth with these shows. Even the Vader Project. If you look at the biggest names, they have, they have their limited time, and they know what their work can sell for, and how much a Vader helmet is going to sell for if they do X, Y, and Z to it. And it's really the guys that are up and coming that really fucking nail it. They are trying to out.
Right.
They're
I mean, it just like you were
they're-
saying with your business, it's like even doing the creative shit at some point, you just feel like, it's like bigger than you want to deal with. And it's like,
the hungry guys are out there to like take the big guys.
yeah, but
they're
that's why
there to do the best
that's why
work
big people
for
have to
no
fuck up.
money at all.
Right.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
here in comes Scott Wilkowski. I didn't know who he was. He's just a name. We put out this panda bear. I don't know if you know, that sold before the show even opened. Someone came by and was like, "We have to have this." So, do you want to describe your process?
Was it the skeleton in the resin?
Well, this is how. Yeah.
was
it
that the first? Had you
It
been
was.
doing that
No,
already, or you
never.
just stumbled on that?
And the concept initially, I wanted to make like a science museum kind of display. Like I would have the yoka and then its skeleton and like a museum.
Yeah, we
that
get
was
it.
my
It's
full-on
clever.
idea. And I was like, well, instead of building up this skeleton, like eyeballing it, I'll just make a wax from it so I know it will like be the same size and scale, like cheating. So I made a mold of it because I already had the capabilities from professional life, but made the mold. After I sculpted the skeleton, I was like, I bet this could go back inside. So I just tried it, and I didn't know like what the outcome was
That's
going to
what
be
she
like.
said.
I thought you said you dropped it by accident.
No.
You just try to slip it in to see if it would
So
fit.
that was it, and it fit. I was never more excited. Never more
and
excited.
then your whole style was born,
yeah.
and everyone loved it.
And so the yoka show.
And now you just keep doing the same fucking thing over and over.
I'm evolving.
He's smart.
So the yoga show traveled. We had it, keep going from show to show. It's the 4 or 5 shows, and he kept making 3 or 4 of them for each show. And by the time it got to the 5th showing, almost nothing else was selling except his pieces, and they were just. I think I ended up. I don't know. You made a lot of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so when does the juicy gossip part start?
That's
Ju-
it.
there's no
That was
juicy
it.
You
gossip.
had some juicy.
Okay,
No, it
so
was-
so
Did
then
Morgan sell his piece?
so then I hit him up. No,
You bought it because you
Oh,
fucking
yeah,
loved
yeah,
it.
yeah.
no one else was
Mm-mm.
gonna buy it.
Doesn't seem like he loved it.
So then we partnered up. I think was it at Designer Con, and we got. I contacted Luke Chu, Buff Monster, Kozik, Morgan, and there's one more 6 artist, Dave Horvath.
That was later.
That was later.
And you did
No,
a big
it was George.
masturbatory.
It was and Scott
Scott Wilkowski
Scott-
show.
Tollison.
Scott
and
Tollison and the
Gaspar.
Gwyn, right?
Yeah.
And so he did his thing on. I got him permission from all these artists. We gave them some pieces, and it was. You were there. It was fucking phenomenal. Like, just people just plunking down, $200, $300 for a piece, and selling out, entire runs, and it was great. I think we did. Then we did San Diego a couple of years in a row, and I think the rest was history. Like, he was off and running.
Yeah, but who is he, the man? Like, we know he makes cool toys. We love his stuff, but who is he really? What is he? What is? Right? That's what we want to know.
Oh
I mean,
my god.
Who are you really?
why do you do this shit? You don't do it to make money, right?
Oh, let's first
Well, I
say
think
that.
I would do that. I would just.
Let's first say that he has a successful career as a sculptor, and he sculpts for big companies all the time.
Yeah. So why do you need to do this crap?
Because there's probably like a need for myself to have my own thing, my own style.
Why do you need that? Do you feel?
Dude, what's a pot calling the kettle black? Why do you need it?
I need it for
I've
the
been
same
talking
reasons
about that
you do.
nonstop since the
It's
show
the same
started.
thing. If
Yeah.
he's sculpting a football player for McFarlane, like, it doesn't have his name on it.
Right.
Why do you need your name on something? You don't seem like the type.
Jesus.
You're such a shy boy. You
Well,
don't
that's
seem
probably
ego. You
why,
don't seem
right?
like an ego-driven maniac.
Well, everyone needs a little bit, right?
Maybe.
So if I'm.
He does. You think so?
Scott's got just as much fight in him and competitiveness.
You're
as
much
everybody.
worse. You are much worse. You are so much more darker and evil than he'll ever be. Ever.
It's not. It's just
Don't
a way
you
of
think
going
so?
about it. It's a way of-
Absolutely.
You want to do your scale?
So evil.
We already had that conversation.
Yeah. And you can't mention certain people's names.
No,
anyway.
right.
Yeah.
We know who the
So on the
chaotic,
scale,
the chaotic
on the scale of
characters
evil,
are.
where do I lay it?
Well, I don't know.
Like a
We should do
5.6?
like.
I've heard.
Not so evil. Chaotically neutral.
Yeah, we need the little chart. It's
He's like lawful good.
But no, just you're. It's
Nu-
not
good,
so-
neutral,
neutral.
good. Neutral,
Neutral.
Good. True neutral, not neutral good.
What are you?
Chaotic good. Unfortunately, I'm supposed to be a supervillain, but I'm not. I'm not evil.
What are you?
I have no idea. What is this from? This is.
You're lawful neutral.
Okay. What is this from? Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, we out referenced him like.
Yeah, I'm not.
Nasty
anyway.
Neil is true neutral. True neutral. I think J Corp is probably also chaotic good.
I'm on the chaotic scale. I don't know
Are
if
you
I'm good or bad
chaotic
yet.
good?
Are you really evil? Nobody's really truly evil. I don't
What
think
am
so.
I again?
Lawful
Am I
neutral.
Okay.
You're not a chaotic person. You're lawful good. You think so?
Sure.
Lawful.
That means because, like you said, you have good intentions and you do the right thing and you don't cheat, you don't
Yeah,
do
he's
anything, you don't
lawful
play,
good all the way.
and you're organized.
Why am I neutral and not good?
Because I don't think you have a sort of like idealism to your ambitions. It's like I think
There's still a darkness in there.
That's just because it sells. I mean, it's just like
you
part
don't
of the thing.
you're
I
not you
like
don't
things that
feel
are
like you
dark.
need to make the world a better place or to help people or to like uplift humanity. I think you've given up on humanity.
Not at all. Man.
No?
No.
So you're on a mission to save the world.
It's not
Not at
necessarily
all.
a mission, but there's a thought in my head like I should either get into politics or cook food for people instead of doing this shit. So I think that's good. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, all right. I guess you learn something new every
yeah,
day.
just don't post that on Instagram. I sell toys.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, you're a good person, but I don't think you like have a good intentions.
Oh, wow.
You have neutral intentions. You're not out there trying to do good. You're just out there
no.
doing no harm.
No, I like good
Yeah.
and truth and all that stuff.
You're neutral. Okay.
We'll do
Yes,
the
I'm
we'll do
more
the
neutral
chart
than you.
later.
We'll do the chart later. They added to the chart now. There's like fucking extra things on it. Did you see that? It's like now it's a
Who are
5 by
you
5
in
chart.
Stranger Things?
I don't know.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, but it is. I think what's sort of interesting about the bootleg scene, the resin scene, is that it always had that sort of like anti-establishment aspect to it, or like a rebellious side to it that I think the other aspects of the toy making game don't. Like the type of people it attracts and the sort of renegade, me against the world attitude is sort of baked into that a little bit. Wouldn't you say? There is a sort of
I think there's of all the people who are in the scene and people who've made toys for us. I think that I don't think there's any one. I don't think you can pigeonhole all of them. I mean, there are, clearly. Some people have great concepts, and then the execution is not that good. And there's some people who have great execution, concept not so good. Sometimes both are bad, and sometimes the ones where both are bad, but it's the best work that they can do.
those are the best ones.
It's like the intention is there. It's like outsider art, and it's just that's the stuff that makes me happiest. The delusion.
The delusion.
Ooh, really? That's cool. I like that.
So you're saying but why do you like his shit? There's nothing delusional about his stuff.
No, not at all.
Why do you like his shit?
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Because it's great.
What's great about it? What is it about his stuff that makes you? I'm assuming you think you buy all of our shit, so you think it's great to some extent, but they're all great in a different way. Why is his distinctly great? I mean, what?
I have some of your stuff on display in the house. I have his stuff in display in a lit case. People who do not care about an action figure, a toy, or a pop culture reference see the work and immediately just go straight for it, and they're like, what the fuck is that? Because the suspension of the skeleton in the clear resin gives it's this and I have a lot of the actual resin skeletons next to it, but it's something about that clear resin that gives life to that piece. Which
is otherwise dead because it's a skeleton.
Oh, boy.
But
No, but when you look at Scott's stuff, it's like you're going over a terrain. Like you want to see what happens everywhere, and it holds you in and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
And as far as because
he himself is not as interesting in his work.
because I would say that on the spectrum of
Baby
things,
skeleton.
I think
Love you, baby.
I think you're more of a conceptual artist. I think the concept is, for you, it's the execution's important, but it's not. It's
Right.
the concept. The people who like your stuff are into the concept.
It being bad also serves the concept most
Fine.
of the
Well,
time.
if you want to, on the other end of the spectrum, if you look at the fact that, for the most part, you're not sculpting your own pieces, you're kit bashing stuff. You've sculpted a few pieces, but I mean,
The card is
Yeah, he's masterful.
more
His
important.
shit is
The
masterful.
card is important
as an
the
object
figure.
that lit on a pedestal, like when we put them out on display, like they're very. striking
Everybody
pieces.
loves clear, transparent, colored shit, and if there's something really cool to look at inside
That's
and a
true,
light
but you're-
underneath
but
it,
you're-
it's like a win.
But you're
the
writing,
fucking boss of that.
Morgan, Like I don't.
I'm not fishing for compliments here.
No, I'm saying,
but if you're already in the middle
but
of
I'm
one,
saying, like when I read your writing, like I get excited that I know the guy who says that. Like almost like I wish you said it to me. I can't, like, because it's still a thing that I don't know how you do it.
Look, the Star Bong
You know?
is a perfect example, right? So we
Is
got.
it?
Yeah, we got all of those little bong and bondage leash kits, the old Kenner.
the Star Bong is, I think, one of the most successful melding of our ideas.
No, but
You
anyway,
don't think so?
That's not the point.
It is the point.
The point is that
I want to end this on a good.
the
place
point
with
is
you.
that conceptually that piece is amazing, right? And then when people walk up to the booth and they see it, they pick it up, they think it's funny, they get the gag. I tell them to read the back, and that sells it every time. They read the back and they're like, "Ha ha, $20, boom." They just, hey, turn that around and read it, and they're just like, "Da-da-da-da, ha ha ha."
Yeah, well, it was your idea.
Boom. It was my idea to ask you to design a card about. I didn't write it.
No, but I mean,
But what
that
you-
was one of the Star Bong redeems a lot of our missteps, I think.
What missteps?
The things
You
we've
guys
been
should just do
hashing it about.
accessories as
Listen,
is.
man, like the reality is, and unfortunately, we didn't get to this. Like have not always got along. We've had a lot of headbutting, and
Because quite often, like your ego gets out of control, and then like I have to knock you down
that's
a few
not
blocks.
necessarily the main reason. I don't see it that way.
Because, what are you talking about?
Was it dumb?
I'm just trying to say, like, we've had disagreements, but like,
because of my personality.
well,
Because I am hard to deal with.
sometimes people say, I can't believe you and Dove are such good friends.
Right, but our relationship relies primarily on my level of toleration for you, not vice
that
versa.
might be true.
No?
It's yours to lose, Morgan.
Right? I mean, like,
Do you really want to know?
tell me?
Sometimes you can be a little hectoring.
Well, if I'm trying to
Sometimes, listen, I really
Hectoring?
Yeah, or just like
get,
very
could you look that up
ejectling.
for us?
Hectoring.
I just feel I feel like you present an incredible opportunity for me, and I don't know exactly why you continue to tolerate me. If I'm this terrible.
To talk to someone in a bullying way.
Okay, well, here's the thing.
He's
All
not
right.
a bully.
Not bullying,
He's
but
more
just
of a
like
know-it-all.
Okay, you look at Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan is the best basketball player, arguably, that ever played the game.
sure.
Wayne Gretzky, arguably best hockey player.
This relates to me somehow.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All those people had a coach. Okay. Even the finest athletes, the best writers, have editors. Okay. The problem with creative people, especially in our scene, is that most artists do not get good critical advice. Right. People either want two things: either they're insanely jealous and hate you and want to tear you down, or they want something from you and they want to blow smoke up your
And
ass.
they just write dope on your Instagram. Like that's
Right.
the critique
Okay.
nowadays.
So,
Sick
but I'm
balls.
torn, right? Because quite often what I'm seeing in you, like I see self-destructive behavior, and then I have to ask myself, like,
Why am I betting on this idiot?
no, I've never said that. What I ask myself is, am I supposed to interfere for the better of the person, or are you supposed to like hurt yourself and damage yourself because that's part of your journey in making art? Like you have some serious addiction problems and motivational issues, and so if I'm hectoring, it's probably well deserved, and you should probably just listen more instead of fighting.
Okay, fair enough. That's all. valid criticism. I
mean,
think
you're
your
very
particular.
You're very fortunate that I care. I think most other artists don't get to have that.
You can
Wow.
cry.
That'd be
I
a
would
little-
cry if I
Okay.
were
No,
I mean,
you.
it's-
yeah, like that was really nice.
All right, now that doesn't mean that I could have an idea and project something that I think is a good idea, and then you decide you don't want to do it, right? And it's really depends how badly I want it or need it done that I can push you, right? And then you passive aggressively react by just doing a bad job if you really don't want it, right? Which you should know yourself better just to say like, hey, I really don't want to do this.
You don't always let me do that.
Well, now I do.
Yeah, but before you
Before
wouldn't. Like,
I-
you've pushed things on me, and like you've sort of taken advantage of me in a way because maybe that I felt inclined to want to
Right.
help you out or to do this and take advantage. But the particular thing you wanted me to do, I just didn't necessarily feel like it was. And I
get
know
it.
I'm difficult.
I get it.
And I
And-
felt you pressured me a lot, and I guess I had my own reactive way of
Well,
pushing back against you.
The problem
What?
is that when it was successful, because you pushed back on that Starbong like a motherfucker, right? But you are happy. You're telling the whole world now it's our most
Well, it
successful
was kind of a
collaboration.
breakthrough in a way.
Well, I mean, I had pushback on Suckle. The thing is, it's hard for me because realistically, there's pushback on everything, right? I don't often call and get a response from you that's like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it. I'm going to do it right away," right? So,
Well, I often feel burdened by a lot of these projects. I want to do that, but
then
it's
just
like,
say no.
No, but it's like I want to do it, and I try to do my best, but
Because
it's like,
some of them I think are a good idea, right? But you procrastinate. Quite often, if you're too drunk or stoned when I call,
see, now that's the thing, though. It's like
then I
I
have
think
to
you're
have
a
the
little
same-
over concerned about my self-destruction. You being a straight edge person. You have a very kind of rigid way of seeing things. That's what I think is the main area of friction between us when things aren't working. It's like,
Well, if I
you
have to have the
you're
same
like a
com-
grid, and I'm like a weird spiky
if
ball
I,
with some
if I
soft
have to have
sides,
the same
and-
conversation with you 3 times because you were too drunk or stoned to be able to pay attention the first 2 times, that's annoying.
Sometimes it doesn't. It's not always the same shit.
You guys are friends, so it's like I know if Morgan had a meeting with someplace that was just as important to his career as a conversation with you, he wouldn't be drunk or stoned. But you guys have developed a friendship where
And you take so long to explain things. Like sometimes when you call, I'm like, listen, I want to talk to him, but it's gonna be like an hour.
Okay, so
and it's just like
that's
we're getting in the
that-
weeds here.
But that's unfortunate, right? Because what really ends up happening is we don't talk on the phone, right? Because we talk on the phone, I call you, and either you're just like you're in the middle of something, you just like we are friends when we see each other and have great time and conversation, but like when I'm in LA and you're in New York, like there's just nothing there, and it's because you
why should there be?
I can't answer that. That's for you to answer, I guess.
Yeah, you've given me a lot to think about.
do you have it with other artists that you talk to? Like you found it better when you're in person with them, and on the phone you're a little bit more aloof.
No, I think the phone is always great. I always prefer talking on the phone than email because it just there's like a back and forth.
So you get it done quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, the phone is the way to go. But his behavior is so erratic on the phone that
But it's weird because I don't really have that with anybody else. Like you're the only person that I have this
I end
weird
up having
sort of
to,
like.
to reiterate what I said in email. Is like, okay, are you gonna get that done? Oh, I forgot about that. Can you send me an email? I was like, well, we just fucking talked about it. It's like, all right.
You're
sorry.
forgetful, right?
I take on way too much shit.
He's busy
and I
getting
lose
his dick
track of
sucked,
shit.
you know?
No, I mean.
Look,
I don't have this with other people as much. I think it's sort of like a subliminal resistance to something. But I'm trying to end this on a positive note. I'm trying to fess up to the fact that I know I've been difficult, and I'll take 75% of the blame for why things don't always work out. I just think it's more like we have very different personalities and different ways of doing things.
Sure.
And as you said before,
I'm not upset.
No, I'm not upset. I'm just trying to put into words because it's interesting.
Yeah.
You talked about the chaos being essential to the creativity.
I hope that's great because I see a lot of self-destructive shit going on.
Well, okay, but I see it as more as riding the lightning. That's how. And the same if it's like this. I mean, you're right. Sometimes it goes too far in one way or direction, but in order for this shit to be inspired for me, it's got to be that edge. And I feel like just maybe I push back on you in certain cases because I felt in some way I was fearful. Not saying it was really true, but I was fearful of compromising that in some way. Like I feel like I have to be kind of extra rebellious with you because I feel some resistance to the structure, you know.
I mean, I remember after Suckle 2, you're like, that doesn't even pay me enough to pay my rent. I don't need to do this. I was like, okay,
yeah, I know.
then I'll go
I mean,
do something else.
Listen, I know.
There are
man.
100 other artists. Like Ron English is calling me all the time. Like, hey, why don't you do the figures with me?
Yeah,
like,
why don't you?
Because I'm doing the Frank Kozik series next, and then I'm going to
Listen,
do them
you're
after
right.
that.
I mean, to be honest with you, like I've always had a difficult time with money, and and that's my own fault, and that's by my own doing. But when you don't have money and you're broke and you're in debt, it's like you just get in a place that you get into a.
This is all self-imposed. I mean, you've chosen to have a rent in New York for where you're living and a studio, right? I mean, if you want to look at it, I was telling Dave today, it's actually a complete success story that you've managed to survive this long.
Because
but you're going to be 50 and you're going to have nothing to show for it.
That's not specifically true.
You can do what you do anywhere else in the world.
I disagree with that.
That's all in your head, dude.
I wrestle with that though myself.
No.
Being in Milwaukee right now,
That's the shit I feel like I have to push back on.
Every place Manhattan feels like an island if you live here long enough.
But let's look at
my
Dave.
own basement island that no one comes to visit.
I mean, Healy's a perfect example. He manages to live in New York and do it affordably.
Me and Healy are so completely different in almost every way that like that comparison doesn't even mean anything.
If you make
we both live in New York and we both make resin toys, but that's about where the similarity, and we both like Breaking Bad.
I adapt. You ride the lightning, I believe.
Totally stealing that line.
Yo, swear to God. I don't know how you guys didn't lose it on that.
I think everything is going to work out fine. Trust me.
Good.
I'm not trying to fuck your shit up.
You're not.
Okay, good. Then we're fucking fine.
I mean, like,
don't worry about me, Dove. I'm going to be fine.
San Diego was like a perfect example. You came to me and said, do you want me to do an exclusive for you? I don't ask you to do exclusives anymore because for the most part, you can sell all this stuff yourself. You don't need me and you really don't need the promotion like these other guys do. But you came to me and said, yeah, I'd like to do something. You're going to be in New York. It's like, okay. And then you said, I don't really have any ideas.
No, I sent you the Captain America Islam thing and you said you don't think it would work.
Yeah, but the previous Captain America would have worked.
But I had already done that.
Yeah, but you knew you needed to come up with something for me for Comic-Con. So the Captain America thing would have been perfect, but you released that. And then you did the Islam one, which I was not going to touch and put out. Like, you can get away with that, but, I can't put that out.
The timing was wrong.
Right. But then you put out the Darth Vader Hungarian piece. That would have been perfect.
I didn't think that. I thought that was so weirdly obscure that it just wouldn't have flown there.
Anyway,
making knockoff like foreign bootlegs.
I'll be honest with you.
Is really popular right now. So.
You know what? And we're gonna have to stop, and this will lead us perfectly into the next episode. Like, I struggle with trying to like when I just make a figure for myself, I just do whatever I want to do. When I have to put it in the context of your booth, now that your booth has become this thing, I have a different. I don't know how to approach it because I feel like I can't just. I don't feel like where I'm at right now can just fit there, and I feel like I have to do something, and
that's fine.
It creates.
But that's fine.
But you came to me. You made a commitment, and you failed to deliver.
No, you didn't like my idea. And then you said whatever. It doesn't matter. And then you said whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it was because I wasn't expecting on it. Like,
and because you had so many, and like we said, so many other people came through for you, so you didn't really need to depend on me. And I come and go as I please. And when it works, it works. And when it doesn't, whatever. We're still friends, right?
Absolutely.
Do you like me as a person?
I think you're a charming individual.
I make you laugh. You do like having me around.
Yes.
I do entertain you.
Like there is that week that you come over and sleep on our couch, like from like decon to Thanksgiving generally, and
It's nice.
It's generally a very rewarding experience.
We should have a show, our own reality show, where we live together and just do
I
projects.
think the shitting in the morning with the coffee, that's too much.
What do you mean?
Like that 45 minutes
Yeah,
when,
we don't have to follow after that.
when we're
I'm
when
still
we're
waiting
trying
to
when
go.
we're trying to leave in the morning to get somewhere like a convention, and you're still on the toilet trying to take
And
a
the
shit for
noises.
45 minutes. That is like, no.
What do you want me to do? Shit faster?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ride the lightning.
See you next week, folks.